Welcome to this week's Smarketing Show. We're going to talk about problem solving and pivoting in business, and not just in business, but in life. And I'd like to welcome this week's guest, Joe Sutton. He's a speaker, consultant, serial problem solver, and published author of the Zero Sum Game Book. Welcome, Joe. Happy to have you here today.
Oh, great. It's great to be here. And, let's get into it. Let's talk about the problem solving, right?
Yes. And pivoting. How do we pivot? I mean, I feel like that's been the number one word through the whole pandemic and everything else, which let's get about that.
It's like the new word. And when people ask me, how'd you pivot? And I'm thinking, well, it's not so much pivoting. It's like allowing your business to grow in a different direction, but it's not so quick. So when people think about pivoting, they think like they're going to turn the corner and all of a sudden money's going to come in. That's not really what the book doesn't tell that. The book basically tells a tale of two Joes, one that was driven by ego, and then the other Joe who had to clean up the mess after the ego Joe brought down the business. So I think the number one thing in the book is egos don't belong in business. Leave your ego at home and you focus on your business in the slow and steady, day by day. It does get boring sometimes. Your business is moving along and you want to go into hyperdrive. That's what I did. I went into hyperdrive, and then the perfect storm of 2008 occurred and I couldn't get away fast enough. So yes, it was a very, very, very difficult period. And that's what the book centers around, that period of time and the 10 years after the collapse and me bringing it back.
Awesome. So that is the main message of your book, how you brought it back, how you're the new Joe, the guy without the ego, right?
Well, after the ego thing, I decided that, I lost 10 years of my life by trying to clean up the mess that my ego got me into. So when I do speak, I speak of leave your ego at home, because there's no place for it in business. And as far as the whole notion of pivoting, which is like that new word that's been out there, pivot wisely, take your time, see it before you do it. And if you can do that, then you have a pretty decent chance of a successful business. Bring your humility out, because you'll need your humility, and you just be prepared for down cycles as you would really when you're in your own home living your life, because life is down cycles, up cycles.
Absolutely. So if there's business owners listening, which there is today, what would be the top 3 things you think you learned in this process, and then, or process? You can see my
you can do that process. I like
process.
I like the Canadian accent, so it's fine.
I'm giving it all away. What are the top 3 things you think you learned in this process?
Definitely humility. There is no question about it. Not panicking at the thought of failure. Everyone has this whole thing about failure, right? It's like the stigma. I think it's so ridiculous. I think you should be prepared to fail, and you are going to fail at something. I mean, you can't be absolutely perfect, but you can't be afraid of it. And if you're afraid of failing, and if you're panicking at the thought of that failure, you're going to succumb.
Yeah.
So that was the one thing that, I did. Now, don't get me wrong. When you lose millions in a matter of 4 weeks, you do curl up in a corner and you do, feel sorry for yourself for a couple of days, but then you gotta, pick yourself up, figure it out. And that's what I did.
Yeah, absolutely. So talk to me about what pick yourself up and figure it out means for like an entrepreneur, right? You're on mid-sized business. What are the steps?
First thing I did was cut expenses, because this was going to be a significant recession. I knew it. It hit the real estate industry very, very hard. And since real estate is a huge part of GDP, I knew that the real estate market going down was going to absolutely affect the overall economy. And I knew we were going to be going into a recession. You just know it.
Mm-hmm.
So first thing, cut expenses. It's painful. You got to let people go.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to negotiate humbly with your lenders and your landlords and your counterparties, because you have to save money.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the process of saying, okay, I'm now in survival mode after I've got myself out of the corner, after I've been weeping for 2 days. And now I got to get myself out of the corner, and I now have to cut expenses. So at the height, to the trough, I think I must have cut 75% of my expenses.
Wow, great.
And then from there, I made peace with the worst case, mid case, and best case scenario. And whatever happened, and I was going to do my best to work through it. And that was it.
Awesome.
I didn't look back. And then the third thing, and I think this is the most important thing in business, is, when you make a decision and you say, okay, I'm making this decision, and you've got so many variables that are attacking that decision. Why are you making that decision? Once you've made it, move forward, because 10 years later, you're not going to remember all of those variables that went into that decision. You're just going to remember, I made that decision.
Right.
And I remember specifically 10 years ago making this incredibly difficult decision. And I said to myself, now don't look back and say, regret it. You're going to say to yourself, I had a lot of things happening, and this is the reason why it probably happened this way. And never regret decisions, ever. You can't take them back.
Absolutely. So I think a little bit in there, risk, right? Risk and don't regret, just move forward. And
mindful risk.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
My risk that got me in trouble was arrogant risk, and that was not thoughtful. So that's the problem I found with myself, and I had to correct it. And it was a difficult path, 10 years, 12 years worth of struggle, but it ended up working out to where now everything is recovered, and I couldn't be any happier.
Absolutely. So who do you think your book is targeted at? Do you think it's one specific group of people, or is it a broad range? Or talk to me a little bit about that.
The feedback from the readers, from people who bought the book, some have said this has been like a psychological assistance for me, because I thought I was the only one who absolutely got hammered during this period of time. And some have read it 2 or 3 times and said, I just felt such relief. I guess misery loves company, right?
Yeah.
But that's
it's true, though. When we're going
through
a tough time, whether it be in business, life, whatever, we think we're the only person that's ever walked this road, right?
That's right. So they felt at least some calm. Now we're trying to target this more towards the educational field. The reality is, I really shouldn't be here. The truth is, I was so over leveraged. We had this perfect economic storm that was just wiping banks out left and right, and I shouldn't be here. So I'm thankful that the universe got me here, and I'm going to pay it forward. And that's really the point. And I want to pay it forward to young entrepreneurs who maybe have just gotten started, maybe fledgling entrepreneurs are not quite out of school yet. I want to look at them and say, let me tell you, money doesn't fall from the sky, and you're going to have to work really hard. You have to be prepared to work 15, 16 hours a day to build your business, and you better love it. And if you don't love what you do, you will absolutely not defend it in a downturn. And that's the lesson.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what's the goal? I think that's the goal, right?
That's the goal.
That's the goal. Have passion, drive. You talked, I was obviously on your LinkedIn and follow you, and you say, you need tenacity, humility, and willingness to do everything and anything to keep yourself, your business, whatever, from failing work hard pays off.
Well,
Right?
well, yes, I was ahead of the curve. The story goes, the storyline basically is, since I was a lender, I was the person that lent money to people who wanted to buy homes.
Mm-hmm.
The environment was, when the collapse occurred, don't pay your mortgage, don't pay your mortgage, don't pay your mortgage, no one paid their mortgage. That means no one paid me. So I was repossessing houses. And you should see some of the stuff that I saw coming into some of these homes. It was horrific. I can't even describe it to you. But the book will detail several stories. As it's comical now, but it's not. It wasn't at the time. Absolutely. And the book wasn't. I didn't just think I'm going to write a book. Mm-hmm. It was my psychiatrist who said you need to journal, and my psychiatrist says, start journaling now. And he put me on meds because I was crazy with trying to find a solution where a solution just wasn't possible. And that's how the book came out. Wow. Someone read my journal. My friend of mine read my journal and said, this is really good. And 5 years later, here we are.
Wow. Well, like they say, right? Lots of positive comes out of pain.
Yes, and you cannot grow without it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Joe, it has been so good to get to hear your story, a little bit of your story. I'm excited to read your book. I haven't yet, but I will. And if the listener wants to find your book, where can they find your book and connect with you?
It's on Amazon. You can get it, The Zero Sum Game, Joseph A. Sutton. It pops right up. Visit me on my LinkedIn page. Hashtag The Zero Sum Game. That takes you right to other links to buy the book. I will guarantee you, in the comments from readers are, you won't put it down. You'll start it and you won't put it down. And some have said I had to shake my husband to turn the light off at 4 o'clock in the morning because he was reading the book.
Wow, so, that's awesome.
So it's a page turner a reader in one sitting.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your vulnerability. Congratulations on what you've done and your success.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Smarketing Show. If you enjoyed today's show, please like, share, and subscribe to get the latest B2B insights to help you market and sell to win.